Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hi my loves, it's Destin Troyce and you're watching TROYCETV. So today I'm going to be making a very, very healthy smoothie and I'm going to be talking about politics, something very controversial that divides all of the fucking world. So let me just start off by saying that this video is going to trigger a lot of people. It really is. These are my opinions, and let me just start off by saying, before anyone assumes my political views or my political background, I want to start off by saying that politics is a motherfucker, and I don't support any politician because majority of them are evil as fuck. Trump ain't shit, Bernie ain't shit, Joe Biden ain't shit, and Obama ain't shit. So let me just get that out the way. So politicians have been linked to some very problematic things, such as sex trafficking, such as corruption. We all know this, but in America, we have to choose between the lesser of two evils. And isn't it so timely how a lot of this insane stuff is going on right around the corner from the presidential election? Isn't that very interesting? Let's think about it. People forgot about the killer hornets. We still haven't really gotten an update about that. People also forgot about the COVID cases and the fact that people are constantly protesting and that businesses all over the South and all over the East Coast and all over the West Coast are reopening like nothing ever happened. And it's very interesting how people forgot about the COVID cases, the killer hornets, and people automatically don't even talk about the fact that, yes, Hillary Clinton is on trial right now. She's on trial right now over some fuck shit emails that she was attached to. But of course, y'all aren't going to find this kind of stuff out on the Breakfast Club, and you're not going to find it out on the Shade Room. How interesting.
I also want to point out that did you guys know that on June 2nd, yes, June 2nd is when Hillary did her first appearance in court, right? June 2nd, keep that in mind. She made her first appearance to testify about the emails that she's attached to. And guess what happened on June 2nd? Y'all are going to be shocked. On June 2nd, we were all participating in Blackout Tuesday. How interesting. We don't say anything at all. We don't use social media. All we do is just post black squares, and that's it. Interesting, right? How interesting that the music industry set this up on June 2nd.
So I've always been ahead of the curve when it comes to politics. Even as a child, I always looked at politics as... Because realistically, for those people who don't know, your votes don't really count much unless you live like in a fucking swing state. So realistically, only like in 14 states do votes really, really count.
If you don't happen to live in one of those 14 states, your vote just does not matter. They don't spend a dime trying to get your vote because your vote mattered even less than a dime to them. Now the reason for this is a rule they call winner take all. All but 2 states use winner-take-all to allocate their electoral college votes. But what winner-take-all means is that the vote of some Americans means more than the vote of others. Those battleground states represent just 35% of America.
How fucked up is that? And how fucked up is it that people don't even talk about that? So realistically, votes don't really count, and I've never cared to participate in any election at all. But I do gotta admit, elections like who's ever running for mayor, who's running for governor, who's running for senate, I guess you could vote in those. I guess those really matter. But as far as a presidential election, I decided not to take part in it only because it's very problematic. It's like every time I turn on my TV, I feel like I'm literally watching a reality show. Now, the reason I'm not going to be participating in the presidential election is because the world is literally pressuring black and brown people to vote for Joe Biden.
And must I remind you, Joe Biden has been running for damn near 3 decades. He's been trying to run since the 80s, since the early 2000s, and since now. Like, this is literally his 3rd attempt to try to run for president.
So it's like, we have to vote for Trump, the asshole, or we have to vote for Joe Biden, the racist and the pedophile.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Like, you see where I'm coming from here? It's like, isn't it so weird that we have to choose between Trump or Joe Biden? It's fucking insane. So I'm literally thinking of, like, revoking my fucking citizenship and just moving to fucking Kenya, or moving to Lagos, Nigeria, or moving to Kenya, or moving to South Africa, or even moving to fucking Canada, or hell, fucking moving to North Korea. Because moringa powder. Because it's just like, it's so peculiar how we're all being fucked over and don't even realize it. Isn't it interesting how people like Joe Biden want the black vote? Because if y'all didn't know, it was statistically proven that over 111 million Americans were applicable to vote, were able to vote, but chose not to. And it was statistically proven that 11% of the people who voted for Obama for his 2 terms, 11% of those people did not vote in the new term when it was Hillary versus Trump. Because let's just be honest, Trump ain't shit and Hillary is a closeted evil bitch. We all know this. But lesser of two evils. So Hillary got the black vote to the point where she even got people like Beyonce and Jay-Z endorsing her.
No more questions? They said no, she has to go.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Are you getting information right now? Hot sauce. Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people.
Okay. Is it working?
And then now we're 4 years later, we have to choose between Joe Biden or we have to choose between Trump. And to me, that's a little problematic. And I remember one time I got into a debate with somebody and somebody literally told me, well, you must want Trump to be back in office. Bitch, I don't want any of the motherfuckers in office. It's so problematic how people always seem to forget Joe Biden's problematic past. Trump has a problematic past of racism that goes as far back as the 1970s. Back in the 1970s, if y'all didn't know, Trump legitimately got sued for housing discrimination. He didn't want to rent to black tenants and he got a lawsuit and he ended up losing the lawsuit. But he's also a businessman, so I see why America loves him so much and put him on a pedestal. But in the same breath, people like Joe Biden, and I have a saying that I always say, and basically my saying is this. See, Moss? My saying is, I like my racist. I like my racist seasoned with a little bit of saltine crackers, okay? I don't want someone who's fake, pretending that they're for the people, for the black people, and then they end up not doing shit. A good example is Joe Biden. If y'all didn't know, back in the 1970s, did y'all know Joe Biden had an insane, extensive history of saying fucked up shit about black and brown Americans during the crack epidemic? Yes, not only that, he's also the reason why incarceration rates are so fucking high. For example, you ever wonder why white people love saying, oh, well, technically 44% of African Americans commit most of the crimes, and y'all are only 13% of the population, because it's true. 44 to 48% of crimes are done by black and brown Americans. So people of color in general make up most of the crimes that are done in America. Meanwhile, black people are 13% of the population, which is very interesting. But of course, a lot of people turn it into a, well, it's the fact that they over-police neighborhoods, da-da-da. But a lot of people never take into account that Joe Biden is a big reason for that. Joe Biden he literally helped create, along with Bernie Sanders, the infamous crime bill following the Clintons while they were in office. And basically the crime bill consisted of this.
And President Clinton and Senator Biden at the time were right that the bill was significant.
The most significant federal effort to deal with violent crime in America that has ever been undertaken.
There was the good and there was the bad. For example, The bill eliminated 19 types of semi-automatic assault weapons. It also provided huge amounts of funding to hire cops. 100,000 cops were funded. It was about $14 million at the time for community policing. The bill also enacted the Violence Against Women Act that provided funding to protect women and victims of domestic violence and crimes against women. That funding literally paid states to increase the number of prison beds that they allocated for individuals convicted of violent crime in this country to serve 85% of their sentences behind bars. The reason that provision is so important and the reason we're still talking about it today is the federal government essentially subsidized states across the country to build more prisons.
Now, that was the early 90s. And because of this motherfucker, there's a lot of people who can't get rehabilitated and can't even hop back into society or get a job because of Biden and many other people like the Clintons.
Even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. I remember when it was going on, when I was making these arguments in the late 70s, they used to call it Biden's same time for the same crime provision. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malefactor in society.
So, to this day, there are so many black and brown people who are in jail for non-violent crimes. So if someone had like a bag of weed this big, they're probably in jail probably for like fucking 15 years. How problematic is that? If somebody was out here selling cocaine to provide for their family, they're probably doing 25 years to life in jail, right? Isn't that very interesting? So Joe Biden plays a big role in mass incarceration amongst black and brown people. He plays a role on why a lot of black people don't have their fathers in their lives due to the judicial system. He's also had a very disgusting racial prejudice past, but for some reason, the media doesn't talk about these videos that are resurfacing on the internet.
I saw that made me aware when I was in law school, proudly for Holloway, proudly for your dad, first African-American state senator in the state of Delaware. Everything about. And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
And no one talks about this. It's so interesting. But I remember every time I look at the comments, every time I go on Twitter, it's always a celebrity saying, we're going to vote out Trump. We're going to vote out Trump. As we should. We definitely should vote out Trump because Trump is maple extract. Trump is incredibly problematic. He might have done some, horrible things, but there is a good balance of good things and bad things. And I do have to give him credit for that. Joe Biden, on the other hand, Joe Biden, on the other hand, some people might argue that, he's changed. He's not the same person anymore. What if he just wants to repair his damages? Yeah, I'd personally rather people vote for the open racists rather than the closeted racists. So that way, at least you know what their next move could be, or at least you know how to maneuver them, and at least you know how to manipulate and use them to your advantage. People like Joe Biden are racist behind the scenes as of now. But back in the 70s, he was an open racist, but now he's like dimming it down a little bit. When he went on the Breakfast Club to tell people that if you don't vote for him because, if you don't vote for him because of his track record, if you don't vote for him, after he helped Obama, if you don't vote for him, then you ain't black.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
People for some reason was like, okay, yeah, period. Joe Biden said what he said. It's either you with us or you not. Yeah, we not voting for Trump, so we definitely gonna vote for Joe Biden. And I'm just like, yikes. People are legitimately willing to vote for somebody who plays a role in mass incarceration to black people, who plays a role in harsher punishments to black people, along with the Clintons, than Trump. I'm appalled. I don't like either of the motherfuckers, but I really gotta admit that when it comes to America, Ooh, child, the American school system has really fucking failed us. And I understand that people say that if you don't vote, it's a vote for Trump. Because I've had so many people tell me that. People say, because you didn't vote, that means you voted for Trump. And I'm just like, bitch, no it don't. No it don't. Because I didn't vote, I let America make the decision. And America made the decision. And is it a fucked up decision? Yeah, but most of politics is. Obama is a good example. I can go on and on about him, but Obama hasn't really done much for the black community as a whole. He did things that benefited Americans mutually, but we all know that black Americans are at the biggest disadvantage in their own environment. And Obama didn't really do much for black Americans other than tell them, yeah, keep protesting. So it's so insane to me. It's so insane that people are willing to put aside Joe Biden's problematic past. Literally, back in the early 1980s, during the peak of the crack epidemic, because if you didn't know, the crack epidemic peaked around the mid-80s. That's when the crack epidemic was popping, and drugs were everywhere, and cocaine was everywhere, and crack was all around. George Bush went on national television in the 80s, in the late 1980s, and he completely demonized black neighborhoods and made it seem like it was mainly people who lived in these rough neighborhoods that were responsible for bringing it in white neighborhoods.
But we all know, for real, who put crack in black neighborhoods. We all know that crack first came on planes and then made their ways through cartels. We all know that. But of course, they don't talk about how it actually got there. They just talk about who's actually using it.
And guess what? George Bush reasonably said that you can get a punishment if you're found. You will get a harsh punishment, but it will also be fair. Joe Biden quickly denounced George Bush and said, okay, yeah, great for George Bush for, trying to pass laws to make it strict and try to fund more police. But I think George Bush is being a little bit of a pussy. He basically said that. I think George Bush is being too sensitive. I think we need harsher punishments for these people who live in these urban areas.
You will be caught, and when you're caught, you will be prosecuted, and once you're convicted, you will do time. Caught, prosecuted, punished. I'm also proposing that we enlarge our criminal justice system across the board.
Not enough prosecutors to convict them, not enough judges to sentence them, and not enough prison cells to put them away for a long time. That's why right now, 6 out of every 10 criminals who are arrested on drug charges have their cases dropped. That's why we think the president should triple the commitment that he's made tonight for police, prosecutors, and judges for our cities and our states. Second, education. The president says he's increasing money for drug education.
La 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 la, la 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 la. Guess what, guys? So since the mass incarceration rate tripled throughout the past 20 years, since the 80s to the 90s to now the 2000s, for black and brown, Latino, African American people, guess what? These major corporations that we all support all get their products packaged and shipped by prisoners. Yes, some of these prisoners get paid as low as 50 cents to $5 a week just so they can get commissary, so they can afford staying in prison, so that way they could buy their toilet paper and their water. And guess what? These companies profit off of prisoners. So why do you think slavery is still here? Also know that slavery still technically is legal just as long as you're being punished for it. According to the 13th Amendment, you legally can own a slave if they're being a prisoner. A legal prisoner, though. A legal prisoner. That's why prison systems work with corporations to have prisoners ship their products, package their products for cheap, like Whole Foods and Starbucks and Microsoft and so many other companies. Isn't that interesting how they don't teach us this in school? And y'all wonder why the incarceration rate for blacks and Latinos is so high compared to whites. This was their way to make billions, and the prison industry is skyrocketing, booming in billions. And guess what? You can't run from it, because almost everything that's packaged and shipped in bulk is made and packaged by the prisoners in our American system. How fun.
Not only that, Joe Biden has also played a role in segregation among schools. If you didn't know, there was a huge situation going on. I believe it was called It was basically called the Board of Education. It was basically the Board of Education era back in the 1970s. Back in the 1970s, a lot of schools were still racially segregated because this was aftermath of Jim Crow laws that happened in the 1960s. But in the 1970s, a lot of people, especially the NAACP, highly supported schools to be integrated, meaning they wanted schools to be diverse, meaning they provided school buses in every neighborhood. At one point, school buses were only exclusive to good neighborhoods, to high tax-paying neighborhoods, to good quality neighborhoods at one point. But then the NAACP fought very hard, along with many other social activists, fought very hard to bring school buses into the hood and into urban neighborhoods where there was mainly Chicanos, Chicanas, Native Americans, and black neighborhoods. They wanted to bring school buses to these low poverty neighborhoods because of their disadvantages, so parents couldn't afford to constantly take their kids to school. So that's why a lot of activists fought for that. But Joe Biden was completely against that. He was completely against integrating schools.
It's tearing them apart. People, as a community, it's tearing them apart. They may say this is helping, it's tearing them apart. I'm not for this. I don't care. My one will not go to school, but it's tearing them apart.
I wouldn't care if they were green or purple. It's the idea of putting my kid on a bus when I have a school right across the street from where they should go. I don't care what color they are.
They'll change this
It's
law.
like
it's supposed to be a free country.
It's getting in the country now that they're telling you to do this and do this now, and you won't even have no freedom.
All I want is a seat in their school. Hey, nothing else. Let us go to our neighborhoods where our kids are safe. We want our kids safe. We want our children safe. And more than if I told you to eat shit, you wouldn't buy it. Niggas suck.
And they were throwing eggs at the window and trying to hit people with them.
And there was and while we was in school, they was throwing glass at black people and little kids.
What school was this again?
The Roger Claps.
Are you going back to school tomorrow?
No way.
We're ordering you to disperse in the name of the Commonwealth. If you're not going to disperse, you're going to be arrested.
And there is uniform opinion of those who testified that it is not a north-south, it's an urban-rural question, a distinction. And I happen to think that the one way to ensure that you set the civil rights movement in America further back is to continue to push busing, because it's a bankrupt policy.
He was completely against making schools diverse. He was completely against it because he said the following quotes.
Biden said, "What it says is, in order for your child with curly black hair, brown eyes, and dark skin to be able to learn anything, he needs to sit next to my blonde-haired, blue-eyed son. That's racist. Who the hell do we think we are, that the only way a black man or woman can learn is if they rub shoulders with my white child? I opposed busing. It's an asinine concept, the utility of which has never been proven to me," he said. "I've gotten to the point where I think our only recourse to eliminate busing may be a constitutional amendment. I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather. I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation, and I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago. An African-American child is sent to a white school in a wealthy neighborhood, then, back to the ghetto. How can he be encouraged to love his white brothers? He doesn't need to look at the other side. He needs the chance to get out of the ghetto permanently," Biden said. "I do not buy the concept, popular in the 60s, which said, we have suppressed the black man for 300 years and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything our society offers. In order to even the score, we must now give the black man a head start, or even hold the white man back, to even the race," Biden told a Delaware-based weekly newspaper in 1975. "I don't buy that."
This nigga bitch said that it's racist to force white kids to have to tolerate black kids just because we want more diversity. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And black people have the nerve to say okay, if you don't vote for Biden, you must want Trump back in office. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Biden supporter. I do think voting in things like the mayor election, the Senate, midterm elections, I guess those are important because when it comes to electing your governor, obviously those are kind of important. But when it comes to the presidential election, this is all some fucking reality show. Like, I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. And like I said, how timely is all it is? No one even knows this, but Hillary Clinton has to be in court very soon because of some problematic shit she did. And no one is talking about this. So, Joe Biden is garbage. And guess what? He has stood by a lot of the shit that he said in the 70s, in the 80s. He stood by his problematic claims in the 90s. He stood by his problematic claims in the early 2000s. And he recently stood by them 11 months ago when he was called out by Kamala Harris.
Just for Kamala to turn around and endorse him, and for Obama to endorse him. But I'm not surprised because he was Obama's vice president for years.
And people have the nerve to automatically assume that he's at least the best candidate for black people. This is fucking insane. And this is why I always say that I'm independently political. Because I see shit, I peep shit. I'll participate in the government elections, the senator elections. I'll participate in the midterm elections. But the presidential election, I think I'm good. Only because it's just like, it's also it's like a ploy. It's like also planned. And I'm expected to make the best decision based off of who I like the most and who I like the least. And it's insane because Twitter is a very toxic place. Black seed oil. Twitter is a very toxic place, and it actually irritates my freaking soul that a lot of people allow Twitter to shape their opinions. Cinnamon. You know, Nicki Minaj once said something. And Nicki Minaj once said, some people will never know how it's like to have a mind of their own. People will never know how amazing it is to have a mind of your own. Because so many people are such sheep that they're willing to believe that people like Biden are really for them, but they're really not. Like, it really just seems like everybody's like thinking of voting irresponsibly. And shame on a lot of celebrities for like shifting votes. Like Taylor Swift is a good example. There's multiple clips of Joe Biden saying a lot of fucked up shit. There's multiple clips of Trump saying fucked up shit. And I am in no way, and nor will I ever defend Trump and his nonsense. Maca powder, very good for your colon. I would never ever sit up here and defend Trump and his fucked up actions and his antics. But god damn, it's so crazy the lengths a lot of celebrities and media outlets will go just to shift your votes. And one thing that people don't talk about, B12 oil. Most people, the average person is deficient in B12 oil, so it's very important to get some in your body because you can only get it through plants, and most people don't consume the plants with B12 oil. And then we're going to add a dash of turmeric because it's good for your heart. Okay. So I really challenge people to like open their minds, and if they're not going to vote for Trump, honestly, I personally think that every person that's black or brown should go back to their own country and invest there. Like, when I eventually start buying a home or start buying properties, I'm more so leaning towards buying property in the motherland, buying property in Africa, because it's ridiculously cheap to buy property. It's ridiculously cheap to rent property there. And there's so many well-developed countries that are 10 times more developed than any other country. You know, America is the best country due to the fact that it has a lot of resources and opportunities for medical people and for people in the entertainment industry and for people who are teachers. But the fact that we're all literally willing to vote for somebody that's less racist and somebody that's least problematic publicly is alarming. And if you ask me personally, if you genuinely want to ask me, I think we can all admit that Biden is 10 times more problematic than Trump. So, honestly, I stand by what I said, and I will not be participating in the presidential election. I did get my ballot and everything, but at this point, why should I have to be forced to pick between Trump or Joe Biden? Like, fuck out of here. Like, I'll take my chances with any one of them, and then I'll eventually move out. Because, don't get me wrong, people say that if you don't vote, then don't complain, which I understand. But I don't normally complain about regular, degular shit that most people complain about. I normally complain about the things that I know are obviously not going to change. Like the fact that Democrats haven't really done much for black people, but a lot of them represent black neighborhoods and haven't really done anything for black people collectively. When it comes to voting, a lot of it isn't going to help with racism. And that's one of the huge things that a lot of us are being impacted and affected by. And then things like sex trafficking. Some of these politicians are a part of it. So for me, I'm just like, ugh, like it's just like sex trafficking made more money than McDonald's and Geico put together. Yes, billion-dollar corporations don't have nothing on sex trafficking. And a lot of those things aren't going to change because a lot of them are happening under your noses, and celebrities and influencers and a lot of politicians are a part of it, these sex trafficking rings. Not only that, a lot of our school systems are fucked to the up. So it's just like, they're not going to update these textbooks. They're not going to get rid of these horribly disgusting statues or these horribly disgusting dollar bills that have predators and pedophiles and rapists all over them and slave owners all over them. They're just now getting rid of Aunt Jemima. And it's just like, some of these things are never talked about in political debates. Some people just forget about these things because they're so caught up at what one president said or what this president said or whose president is better, whose president is that. Listen, fuck Trump supporters, fuck Biden supporters, fuck Bernie supporters. A lot of these politicians are garbage. And honestly, America is going to be Satan's first stop. But yeah, all these politicians are garbage. And I really don't know what to say. Like, I know people are going to be pressed and upset that I'm refusing to participate. And, you know, a lot of people are going to throw that unpopular opinion around, that if you don't vote, then you're voting for Trump. Then, hey, if that's how you take it, so motherfucking be it. Because if you even force me at gunpoint to get in that damn poll and vote for Biden or Trump, bitch, I'm going to be ripping out every fucking hair follicle out of my damn head if I have to pick between one of those two. It's insane. America has been doing this since the beginning of time, choosing the lesser of two evils. I understand. They're both evil, but you have to choose the less of it. And this is why I always say the votes don't fucking count, regardless. Because this is all like some type of agenda. Like, they pick their token few, put them in front of you, and then you got to choose the one that's less evil. And then the media is trying to shift us into thinking that Joe Biden's this homely man. He's this amazing man. Because after he made his claim that you're not black if you don't vote for him, he immediately talked about all his plans for the black community, and all his plans for HBCUs, and all his plans for Morehouse and Spelman, and Morehouse and Spelman, and we're going to give this to this much, and we're going to give that much, and we're going to help low income. It's just like, made all these promises, but still ain't going to do shit. I mean, Obama was in office for like 2 terms, and he didn't do much of anything for the black community because everything is still going on and everything is still happening. So this is why I never acknowledge Obama, even though he's so well liked amongst black people. So these are just my unpopular opinions about politics. It's just my views, and I know a lot of people are going to turn this into a, fuck you, coon, oh my god, traitor to your race. It's just like, we gotta take into account that both these people are overall fucked up. And I know everyone doesn't love Biden, but everyone thinks that Biden is our only hope. And I'm just like, I'm chucking up the deuces and I'm likely gonna leave America. And I know I say that a lot, but I recently got my passport and I'm recently gonna get a visa to visit different countries because I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. Like, all these people are problematic. You know how people always say, well, if you don't like America, then leave. Okay, bitch, I'll leave. Ooh. Okay, maybe I should have never put that much turmeric. And maybe I should have cut the orange peels. The Elise did this to my drink. Ooh. Oh my god. Shit tastes like diarrhea. Anywho, when it comes to politics, I understand that everybody's political views are shaped based off of their upbringing. Your political views are simply shaped based off of your experiences in the world, how you view the world, how you see things around you. And some people believe that when it comes to politics, it could be the best way to get us out of situations. And I know people are going to turn this into a whole, well, your ancestors fought for you to vote. Your ancestors fought for you to vote. Your ancestors fought so that way you could have the opportunity to take your ass outside and go vote. Your ancestors, bitch, don't do that. My ancestors fought for me to have the choice. And I'm choosing to go the fuck to Africa. Assalamu alaikum, y'all. But no, for real. I'm choosing to get the fuck out of America, or I'm choosing to just simply ignore it, because politics, it may affect people economically, it may affect neighborhoods systematically, but for me, I'm just like, yo, I'm just gonna work hard, make good choices, and morally be a good person, give back, do kind things, invest, try to be a part of, you know, this whole train of universal wealth. That's what I'm gonna do. But as far as like politics, I'm not just gonna sit around and roam around and cry and willow and wait for one of these fucking whack ass politicians like Trump, Mr. Donnie Trump, Mr. Joe Biden to do something for me. I'm not gonna wait for someone like Obama to sit in office for like 8 fucking years and barely do any fucking thing for black people. Because we all know Obama mainly did shit for the LGBT plus community, and he mainly did shit for the Latin community, and he mainly did shit for he barely really did anything for black people as a whole collectively. You know, we still have systematically the most disadvantages, and he hasn't really done much. I mean, being honest here, Trump has done more for black people than Obama, and that's just facts, and facts are not meant to make you comfortable. They're meant to hurt your feelings, because facts don't care about your feelings. Like, Trump literally just signed, like my grandfather would just tell me about this. My grandfather made a lot of really horrible mistakes in his past, and he like has a lot of assault charges. Like, he had a huge temper back in the day, back in like the 80s and the 90s and shit. And basically Trump signing that whole criminal reform act has financially benefited him. And that's why my grandfather's a huge Trump supporter. I have people in my family who are huge liberals, who are huge Democrats. I remember one time I was on the phone with my cousin, and she told me, who am I voting for? And I said, I ain't voting for none of them motherfuckers. And then she was like, why not? Why don't you just vote for one of the Democrats? And I'm like, for what? Like, the fuck? Like, if anything, some of the Democrats haven't done shit for black people other than keep us enslaved and not really, like, fix our textbooks. A lot of them go around as activists. A lot of them go around as allies. But systematically, if you think about it, Democrats used to be a part of the KKK. Many of them were. And then systematically, many Democrats have also participated in creating America and creating the systems that kept African Americans enslaved. And she was like, yeah, but like, Republicans don't like black people. I'm lost for words. I literally can't believe I live in this world. Because at this point, if I am black and I'm a sellout for not voting, bitch, at this point, I'm not even human. Because I can't even believe that people are so quick to like believe headlines about doing research, are so quick to like allow people to shape their political views. And some people can't even say that they've done research on Joe Biden. Some people have just said, he has decent promises. Let's just go for the guy who seems like he's for us. Because systematically, a lot of like people of color, we have been molded mentally to vote Democratic. People who are from America specifically, we have been shaped and molded to vote for Democrats. We have been shaped and molded to vote and fight for everybody. When in reality, it's like, we fight for everybody as black people. A lot of these Democrats and these politicians they can easily say, yes, gay people can get married, or yes, you know, Latinos, will give them more ways to maneuver around the immigration laws, But then you got black men and black women who are still being discriminated against for their hair. You got black women who still can't go to work with their afros because they're being told that it's unkept. You got black men being told they have to cut off their dreads in order to be seen as look-attable or being seen as appropriate in the society. Africa is still being demonized in the media, or people think that Africa all Africans are walking around barefoot in loincloths, swinging on vines, and are just like Tarzan, hanging with the monkeys and the alligators and the zebras. These systems have been implemented, the media, the textbooks, everybody's being brainwashed. But it's funny how it's so easy for us to get brainwashed into thinking that Biden is for us. But once I do a quick Google search, it's easy to find. Well, it's not that easy to find because a lot of these videos are buried. I'm talking like some of these videos that I showed y'all today only have like 80 to 100 to 300 views. How? And he's running for president. People, especially the media, are painting Biden as this saint and like, oh, hallelujah. Like same thing like with Hillary. Like we painted Hillary as this saint, but Hillary is this racist bitch, and there's actual proof of her being racist as well, right along with her fucking whack ass husband. So why do we think that Biden is our only way out? I think we should all be talking about how we can invest into universal wealth. I think we should all be talking about the fact that we should all be migrating back to the motherland or migrating back to your home country or wherever you want to go and building property there because America's fucking expensive as shit. That's one thing that people complain about all the time. We can go to different parts of the world and invest there. Why don't we take our asses to the motherland and invest there? A lot of Africans love African Americans. A lot of them are completely fine with them wanting to come here to start businesses and entrepreneurship. That's a huge generational curse to want to be accepted by white people. Like, same thing with the Grammys. Like, that whole Oscar so white situation really pissed me off because it seems like people are so quick to say, where's diversity at the Oscars and the Academy Awards? And meanwhile, a lot of people don't even tune into the Essence Awards. People like Jada Pinkett hasn't even been to the fucking Soul Train Awards in years. People like Will Smith, people like Beyonce and Jay-Z, they don't even show up to those awards consistently. They're quick to show up at these other award shows, like the Golden Globes or the Oscars, that lack diversity, and they want to be accepted. Same thing goes for the damn, same thing goes for, like, the damn, like, it's just like, we want to be accepted by white people so badly, but a lot of us don't want to come together collectively, because collectively, we all love to not respect black women, because it seems insane to me how we have black men still disrespecting black women. It seems insane to me how we still have, people saying, oh, I only date dark-skinned guys, because light-skinned guys, like, it's insane how we still reinforce colorism, how we still reinforce all these things, because honestly speaking, a lot of us really don't like each other, and we all really have a lot of work to do because politically we see the world differently, socially we see the world differently, and let's just be honest, most black people are really conservative, and that's a whole other video that I can go in on about, but most black people really are conservative. Most black people that I know are okay with LGBT plus people. I have 2 older brothers, by the way, and one of them was completely against like transgenders getting their own bathrooms, transgender rights. One of my brothers is completely against, like gay people getting representation or trans people getting representation on television. I've had an Uber driver tell me to my face that oppression doesn't exist and that it's a myth, and I can coexist with these people. I can get along with these people, but for some reason we have other black people who are quick to shame you if you don't follow what they say. Like if you don't collectively think the way they do politically, a lot of people will just shun you and say, oh, you ain't black, you ain't this. Exactly what Joe Biden did with the whole you ain't black if you don't vote for me. That's what black people do to themselves all the time. And it's insane because I think it's okay for a lot of us to disagree with each other, but we don't all have to be on the same path, man. Like we don't have to all think the same, but we should all be able to have a mutual understanding and respect for each other. So at the end of the day, the presidential election can suck my motherfucking ass. The presidential election can go to hell. It's a mess. It's just like what South Park said. You have to choose between the giant douche or the turd sandwich. And how do you expect me to do that? I'll just take my business elsewhere. I was literally thinking about moving to Atlanta or moving to LA or moving to Louisiana for like film opportunities and for entrepreneurial opportunities. But at this point, it's just like America's just a shithole. I might stay in America for a couple of years, but like there's no reason why I'm just now finding out that a lot of states are trying to pass the CAREN Act, which if y'all didn't know, the CAREN Act is a rule that they're trying to get by, that they're trying to pass into, where they can legally arrest people for calling the police on black people for no reason. And why is this just not being a thing? The same thing goes for in California. Like California just became like the 3rd state to basically shut down hair discrimination. Why is there only 3 to 4 states saying that hair discrimination against black people was wrong. Why are there only 3 to 4 states doing that? Why the fuck are we still letting Christopher Columbus govern America? So like I said, unless I see a politician that's strictly going to address everything and saying that they're completely for changing the system and help molding the system in a different way, I don't really give a fuck about voting presidential election. But that was that for this video, this very controversial video. I'm pretty much going to go the fuck to sleep. And yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe. This smoothie was disgusting as fuck. I'm very mad that I wasted money on it. I mean, wasted resources on it. And yeah, that's that. Choice out this bitch, and I already know I'm getting dragged in the fucking comments, but it is what it is.
Don't go messing with my man. I'm really wanna make it to you. Here's a little pretty face for you to say your whole life. Girl, I'm wanting you, I'm wanting you. You're my man. Don't go messing with my man. I'm really wanna make it too.